Welcome to the One Speed MMA podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. We're doing this a little late this week, so if you see this and you enjoy it, we'd appreciate a nice share. We think that doing it a little bit later might cause some issues with our numbers, but we don't know.
Yellowstone and taxes got in the way of that, and not feeling the best yesterday.
Tax season. How you feeling now? You feeling all right?
I am. I do. I feel phenomenal. I actually played soccer Saturday. My first outdoor game ever. Mostly play indoor. And I got the George Washington.
What's the George Washington?
Game winner. The GW.
Ooh.
George W.
You crossed the Delaware, did you?
Mm-hmm.
So lots of news this week in MMA.
There was a lot. The fight card, I actually liked it, but it kind of highlights some of the problems the UFC's having. One, people popping for substances still, which it's going to happen for a little bit. And then also just injured fighters. To be fair, not Tony Ferguson's fault. This was blood clots in his lungs, not like a training too hard or anything like that. Other than that, I actually thought it was a pretty fun card, at least for being free.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, the card itself from top to bottom was actually really good. One of my favorite fights. One of the things that I kind of expected, but one of my favorite fights and fighters, Jon Jones. I expected him to come in and have a really good showing. Manny Gambarian, nothing against him, who apparently doesn't seem to go by Manny anymore. Whatever the pronunciation seems to be what he goes by. But 48 second finish. They talked like 90 significant strikes in that amount of time. Like, just absolutely ridiculous what Jon Jones can do. And the thing is with how fast he is and Dominic Cruz coming off of a bunch of leg injuries, this would be the time for him to actually be able to bump up to 135 and have a good chance at that belt.
Well, he's not going to get that right off the bat. Would you prefer to see he's going to get one of two shots? He'll either get Mighty Mouse again.
He wants to fight. No, he's gone up at the division.
TJ Dillashaw.
I think he gets Dillashaw.
What would you rather see?
At this very moment, I'd like to see him fight Dillashaw again, because he knocked out Dillashaw, and I mean, it was just, he really didn't look. Dillashaw has come a long way, mimicking Dominic Cruz. Mm-hmm. But I would like to see someone as fast as Dodson and see what happens. I mean, and obviously Dodson has enough power and enough precision to actually cause damage. Unlike
and he's explosive for that weight class too. I mean, they're all really quick and explosive, but he has power. I think even at 135, because the first time they fought was at 135.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would like to see that fight again. I think TJ's improved. TJ is the most improved fighter over the last 2 years, except for maybe Robbie Lawler. I think I'd still give the edge to TJ, because TJ went from losing tough, which I guess Lawler got booted, but I mean, losing tough to being looking like a world beater if Dominic Cruz didn't exit.
Yeah, no.
He needs a Tanya Harding situation for him to get back on top.
Someone to take out Dominic Cruz's leg.
He needs to find a mob boss.
Hey, it could work.
Not really. You wouldn't even need a mob boss. You would actually maybe just need Tanya Harding.
You just need a lackey.
Tanya Harding could do it.
Her boyfriend or her security guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even have to be somebody that tough. You just have to get a hold of his knee.
Biggest letdown of the fight, Bangbosa. Sad. Looked really good striking in the first, and then just couldn't stay off his back. So obviously he's got to work on his takedown defense. We did have a fighter peeing so it was a PED, but it wasn't a steroid. It was actually a heart medication that helps with endurance, not some kind of steroid or muscle gain or anything like that. I mean, obviously it's still a big deal. It's on the PED list.
Is it one of the masking agents?
No, it's actually the Sharapova. Did you see how Sharapova? Same thing that she was taking.
Okay.
Something that was legal, I think, a year ago that is now no longer legal. And then one of the most exciting ones, Michael Graves looked really good against Randy Brown. Mm-hmm. He ended up finishing him. Randy Brown looked like he had really good striking. It was really crisp, but he couldn't stay up. I figured it was going to be a wrestling clinic. I figured they were just going to wrestle for 3 rounds. Not even wrestle for 3 rounds. I thought it was going to be Michael Graves on top for 3 rounds. And then he ended up getting him in a rear naked choke in the second. So, I mean, good for him for finishing and actually continuing to attack rather than just doing what it needed to do to win by decision. So
one of my next one is one of my only two that I got wrong. I had to pick Court.
Yeah.
I actually thought he would win too. But
for those who don't know, Court was a senior when I was a sophomore in high school. He actually knows my brother really well. We're going to try and get him on the show. So it breaks our heart. The hard part is Karson, you didn't see this fight, but
I was in transit.
What appeared to happen is Court just seemed to be a step too slow. Court's never been finished, so that makes it even more sad. But for some random reason, every time Ponzi was throwing jabs, he was connecting.
Ponzinibbio is Argentinian, right?
I believe so.
But he speaks Portuguese still.
Yeah, because he goes by a Portuguese nickname.
Yeah, and I was just wondering because, I mean, apart from Verdum, he might be the only fighter on the rise right now in South America.
He looked he looked good, but he didn't look as good as McGee looked slow. McGee just couldn't gauge the distance, and he couldn't get out of the way, and Sergio was just right there every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then finally he caught, it was a really sad series of events. That's what I'm looking for. Series of events. Cor goes for a takedown. Sergio stops him, pushes him off, and as he pushes him off, Sergio comes up with a perfectly placed right uppercut, nails him, and drops Court. And so Court looks stunned, and he just swarmed on him, and he ended up finishing him on the ground.
How much of it do you think's ring rust?
I don't know if it's necessarily ring rust. He's had a lot of arm issues. I think it's a lot of not being able to pace yourself, not having a full contact fight with someone that is that crisp at striking in a long period of time. There's very few people that get like full on sparring anymore without headgear, and even with headgear, you're given a little bit of distance, and a little bit of protection that sets it off. He was a step too slow, and he couldn't get out of his range. I don't know.
Was it like Anderson Silva, just with not quite the same skill level as Anderson?
Yeah, exactly. So Anderson, who could usually step back or dodge or move or whatever it was, and just miss by just that much, that much was what Court was getting caught by. I mean, it looked like he caught him almost every single jab, and you can only do that. It looked like round 2 of Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, where Nate found his range, and no matter what Conor did to try and get out of his way, every single one of those was hitting until one of them finally caught him.
I'm getting more excited for that fight, by the way, not to detract from the review. I'm getting more excited for the Diaz-McGregor. I'm still not happy about it. I would never put money on that fight. I will say that much, though. I would not put money on that fight.
When I'm looking back at this, I mean, this card was really good. I wasn't a big fan of the Betch Correia fight against Raquel Pennington. It doesn't really matter who won. Everyone's saying that Raquel should get a title shot or like a main opponent, which to me is ridiculous. Michael Chiesa, Benel Dariush, who came in and was like, everyone wants me to lose. They just want me to be the gatekeeper. And then he got his jaw torqued. I mean, I like Michael Chiesa a lot. Cub Swanson, man, this card. Once again, if you didn't see this card for free, it was a really good fight. Khabib was nothing but a nice dude. Thinking.
Did you see what they're back and forth between him and Horcher on the internet? He was saying that Khabib was saying, we got to get you training together. You're a stand-up guy. Thank you for showing up. I mean, what is the opposite of paraphrasing? Because I'm doing that because all of this is on Twitter.
Summarizing.
Well, that's even still, that's condensing it. I'm making it longer than it was. It was a Twitter conversation. He said,
you're elongating it.
Yeah, well, thank you. He goes, thank you for coming out and taking the fight. Feel free to come train with us anytime. And then Horcher essentially said, yeah, I'll have to hit you up. I have to hit you up for that.
He said, are you paying for it? Then I'm coming. No problem. I'm on my way.
I don't know if is Horcher does Khabib doesn't train in Russia, does he?
AKA.
Yeah.
That's why he always gets injured. So what's next for Khabib? You get Ferguson. Does he get the winner of RDA, Eddie Alvarez, which we'll get into? Does he fight, Donald Cerrone? What does he do next?
It's hard to say. I mean,
what would you like to see him do next as compared to what you think will happen next?
It's hard to say because Horcher, bless him for stepping in, but I mean, it wasn't. It was just a chance, I think, for him to shake off the ring rust. Like I was saying, the same thing with Jon Jones is Khabib having this fight is scarier for everybody else because he gets to shake the ring rust off and get confidence.
A lot of people were talking a lot of crap on Khabib, saying he looked slow, that his takedowns were sloppy. And to me, you just do what you have to do. Like, if you know you can score on a non-crisp takedown or a sloppy takedown, you're not going to give it the crispest, like, jab when the guy goes to defend, takedown. He knew he could take him down whenever he wanted.
So was it not a 10-8 round?
Oh, it definitely was. Yeah.
Like, what else do you want him to do? One, he is coming off of 2 years. Like, he's fine. I would like to see another fight. I would like for them to remake Ferguson. I don't think it's going to happen because Ferguson's going to want money, and Khabib isn't going to fight, I think, before... Well, he might fight before July.
Khabib said he wasn't going to fight during Ramadan.
Yeah.
And he also said said he wouldn't be able to get back by March 29th. So there was a recent interview where he actually said there's no way that the turnaround and the training and everything I've done to my body will be ready for me to come around to the 29th. He said he essentially said he didn't want to be that type of fighter, and I don't blame him. Like, he's like, you know what? I don't want to be the kind of fighter that comes back in a month and a half. I'd rather have the camp, and I'd rather, have the things that I want. And he stayed on this card. And Darrell Horcher did exactly what was expected. He lost, but like, if it were me, if I knew I was Khabib and I potentially only had 3 to 4 years left, depending on how my body held up, I also would be like, no, I'm not going to fight in May.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you don't need money, then it doesn't matter. But I would like to see him fight another top guy. I don't want to see him go for the title quite yet.
I don't think he thinks he's gonna get a title shot.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think if they said you get a title shot in March or May, I think he comes and he does it regardless. But I mean, that's obviously not going to happen. So I say wait it out, take another fight towards the end of the year, get a title fight.
Do you think Tony Ferguson fights before UFC 200?
Yes.
You think he fights maybe on the undercard of RDA Eddie Alvarez?
Undercard?
Well, I mean, they're on Fight Pass, but you know what I mean.
Oh.
Not undercard, main card of that same card. I mean, there's 3 cards that weekend. That's RDA. There's a Fight Pass card with RDA and Alvarez, and I don't believe anyone else is announced. There's the Tough 23 final on Saturday, or on Friday. So sorry, the RDA fight's on Thursday, if I remember.
This is all in July, right?
And if I'm incorrect, please correct me. All right around UFC 200.
Yeah.
So you've got RDA Alvarez on Thursday. You've got Tough Finale on Friday, and then you've got UFC 200 on Saturday. And they still have to fill out that entire Fight Pass card.
Is the Rory McDonald?
No.
Is that fight card completely made?
That's Ottawa. I think there's undercard that's not completely made, but I believe the main card's mostly done.
I have no idea on that, honestly. But I would like to see him fight before then. I'd actually like to see that fight a lot. I was really...
Which fight?
Ferguson, Khabib. Of all the fights that were coming up, apart from Cormier and Jones, that was my favorite fight.
That could have been a potential title fight. If they were fighting at a different time in a different place, that could have been a different... So the main card looks like it's filled out for UFC Ottawa. So McDonald Thompson, Cerrone Cote, Boss O'Connell, Deodoro Alvi, Sago Silva. So that's not the main card. No, I take that back.
Alvi's great, and he would be like starting off a card. But I mean, if you
this is a fight night though, this is free.
If you get, there's been some good free cards.
Yeah,
lately.
No, a lot of these. Boston O'Connell's not going to be on a main card.
You get Ferguson on with
June 18th. Ferguson could fight. So let's see, who would be available in that? Pettis Barbosa. If that ends quickly, one of those guys could get on that fight. 155 pound UFC. Obviously, you've got Cerrone, who's already on that card. Dos Anjos. So I don't know who this guy is. Oh, this is everybody. We don't want to do this. We just want top.
Let me think about this. Because I would actually like to see Ferguson fight Barbosa. Didn't they fight before and Ferguson won?
I honestly don't know. I would have to look that up.
We have to see with the Pettis. I'd actually like to see him versus Pettis too. But
all right, so here we go.
I think regardless, those two are off. That's out of the table.
Diaz fights the next month. Otherwise, there you go, Michael Johnson, Tony Ferguson, and I believe that they've already fought as well. Michael Chiesa.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about Chiesa?
He could do it.
Poirier.
He called him out. No,
Dustin Poirier already have a fight?
Fights featherweight though, unless he came up. No, I don't think so.
Poirier
I think you do.
lightweight.
I think you do Chiesa. I mean, it makes sense. He didn't take a ton of damage against Darush, so he comes in. Barbosa's off the table. Michael Johnson, I believe, already fought Tony Ferguson. Nate Diaz is already taken care of. Donald Cerrone already taken care of. So unless there's a quick finish to Edson Barbosa, Anthony Pettis, because I would like to see Ferguson Pettis because most likely they would strike. But I think Tony Ferguson's wrestling's good enough to just take Pettis down like Eddie Alvarez did. And I think that's what Eddie Alvarez is going to do with RDA.
I don't think Ferguson
RDA
wants to take Pettis down.
If Pettis win or lose against Edson Barbosa, I would still like to see him fight Tony Ferguson.
I would love that fight, first off. But I honestly, I think it's just a stand-up. I don't think either of them try to take the other guy down. I mean, it'll happen. Like, it's an MMA fight, but I think
because they've exposed Pettis' takedown defense, I think anyone that fights him from here on out is going to take him down.
Who exposed it? Guida and
Henson did a little bit. Bendo, and then Eddie Alvarez took him down and laid on him for it might have been a 5-round fight, but at least 3
Alvarez
rounds.
is different. Alvarez is a different story. I still think their fight stays up.
I would hope so.
Somebody's going to shoot. Like, I'm not saying they're not going to, but I think for the most part, both of those guys are more comfortable on their feet, and they want to get finishes. Both of them do.
Yeah. Rose Namajunas, Tisha Torres. So one thing I want to say about this very quickly, and then I actually have a question for you. One thing that drove me nuts about this fight was Tisha Torres' striking when she would put her head down like this and just swing like a Ninja Turtle. For those that can't see listening on the podcast, you know what I mean, where she would just stick her head down and just run in like a bull swinging her arms. It was like, that's not working, Tisha. Like, you can't get that distance. Like, you got to get a different game plan. I thought this was a lot closer than it ended up being in the end. A lot of people are saying that Rose should get a title shot. What do you think?
One more fight.
I don't know enough about that division to see who she would fight. Maybe the loser of Joanna and Claudia.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Pennington, no, she's up a weight class.
Yep, she's up a weight class. I got fight rankings right here. Here we go. Let's see what we can get here. Top 10 women's strawweight. Carla Esparza, and Carla Esparza fights what, next card, I believe?
Why not Valerie Letourneau?
I have no idea who that is.
She had that last.
No disrespect by any means, but I have no idea who that is.
She's the one that fought like 3 cards ago, and she did pretty decent. Yeah, I think
she looks like an older, haggard version of my brother's girlfriend, Jody.
Take that, Valerie.
She just looks like she's been in a couple fights and maybe a decade older. She's not. I mean, I wouldn't expect her to be a UFC fighter looking at her picture. Not that means anything, but it's just very interesting to me. No, I don't remember her fighting. But yeah.
I'm not going to I'm going to get called out if I try to test my knowledge on that one. But if I remembered, she looked pretty good. But I mean, Rose is right there. What else are you going to do with the division? I
think you're right. So she lost to Joanna, but she had won 3 in a row before that. No, I think you're right on. That shows that your prowess is much better than mine is. But yeah, no, she actually has fought really, really well. I didn't know who she was, and that's a shot at me. 8-4 though. These poor women have some of the most haggard records I've ever seen. You've got Pennington, who's like now 8-6, and everyone's saying like, "Oh yeah, give her a top 5 fight," and it's like, let's hope that she's advanced that far. She didn't look that very good against Betch, and Betch's striking looked weird. She has a very weird striking style. Even the one highlight she has where she's got the one girl up against the fence and is just striking almost robotic. Like Pennington looked more fluid and like a better actual striker. Betch has a very bizarre fighting style. It didn't look conducive to actually having her get a title fight.
If I'm being honest, like fights that aren't title fights right now in women's divisions, I'm not incredibly interested in. it's kind of the same thing. Not always just to beat a dead horse, but the heavyweight division, it's just not fleshed out yet. It'll get there. I just don't think it's the whole division's where it is, because it just started out not too long ago.
Yeah.
It'll get better. And
it's like the 125 and 135 male divisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need some more time.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. They get kind of put on, like, because if I'm not mistaken, like a lot of them, they were under Invicta.
Yeah.
And that's where they come from. If not, they were scattered all over the country, being in the lower promotions. And so this is like the first time that it's been consolidated down into one place for the straw weights. Bantamweights have a little bit longer. But no, I think it'll get better. Joanna, and then the trifecta with hopefully Cyborg being put in the mix too at bantamweight. There's a lot more depth right there and different things that you can do with that division. Strawweight, Joanna's looked like a world beater ever since she destroyed Esparza. And so I don't know. Like I'm not that interested in those fights. So it's hard for me to say. I think that Rose should get a fight or shouldn't get a fight.
And like we talked about on our women's MMA episode that you can go back and check out, we think the women's divisions are going to progress much faster than the men's did. I mean, obviously, men's division starting in 1993 and taking up until, the last 5 or 6 years to really get to where there's a ton of competition in each division other than, say, 125, 135. The women's division is going to move a lot faster than that. Where it took the men's divisions 10 years to do that, the women's division are going to do that, 5 to 6. So
a lot of that's because of what the men already did for laying down the sports
and training.
But like not even the men's, but just the sport in general, right? Like it got to a certain place now that it can sustain better training. But it's hard for me to comment in that sense on who I think that Rose should get next. Looking at the rankings, put her up against Carla Esparza, I guess, and.
But Carla Esparza's already got a fight. That's the only hard part. So yeah, Valerie, and I don't think she's fought since. Glover versus Rashad. Oh, sad. It looked like Glover was sad too as he walked away and just shrugged his shoulders. Like, I kind of wish it would have been more of a fight. Like, no disrespect, obviously, to Rashad after the press conference, which I didn't actually watch, but I saw. They talked about just how nice he was and how he was like, keep your head up, like it happens, like don't worry about it. And Rashad being like, I'm embarrassed, like it was embarrassing for me. And it's just, I like Rashad Evans. I like him as a fighter. He seems like a good dude.
You can't be on the cage going against Glover unless you're Jon Jones. You can't be doing dirty boxing.
But he cut off his angles. He forced him back there. Glover did a great job forcing him straight back.
Rashad should be quick enough to not let that happen.
To circle out.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and Jon Jones, like I was saying, he it's just different for him. Like that's the thing that's most impressive and why he is the best is because he'll meet you on your ground and beat you at it. And he was out dirty boxing Glover Teixeira for large portions of their fight. Rashad apparently can't do that. And I mean, hindsight's 2020, and it's easy to say it from our chair now, but like I just wished he wouldn't have got up against the fence because that's playing right into where Glover wants him, and obviously that's what Glover wanted. So it's like him imposing his will on Rashad. I want to see Rashad maybe a couple more fights, and I still want to see him. I think he has more left in the tank.
Would you rather see him retire or drop to 185?
I'd like to see him fight at 185 a lot.
Do you think?
I think that's his natural weight class.
He's a pretty big dude.
Not anymore. Not with IVs being taken away. I don't think so. But I would like to have seen it. I actually thought that was his weight class for a while. But he knows his body better than I do, and some people don't like to cut.
But that's the hard part too, because a lot of times the more you cut, the more likely you are to get knocked out. And at 205, if you got blasted, it would be hard. I think losing a little bit more water weight to sustain those kind of head trauma that those guys as well can dish out. Put him again, obviously Bisping, but I'd like to see him 185. Vitor Belfort, Michael Bisping, Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, Mousasi, Tim
what's
Kennedy.
Worse?
There's a lot of fights that he could take it.
What's worse, going up against Glover Teixeira being fully hydrated or going up against Michael Bisping with less hydration?
Wow, that's pillow hands. That's why I skipped him.
Okay, so give me somebody else.
Vitor Belfort.
A striker.
Jacques Souza.
Vitor's different, though. Vitor.
Uriah Hall.
Yoel Romero. I would still take... I think you maybe take more head trauma in the Glover Teixeira fight.
Yeah.
And the water... I mean, I understand...
Maybe not against Yoel Romero, man. He is a monster. He's an absolute monster.
But he's gonna be as fast as those guys and more powerful.
And you can't wrestle him. I mean, he's a Cuban Olympic medalist, if I remember correctly. I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, I know he's an Olympic wrestler in Cuba, but I mean, it's no.
You prefer to take shots from Anthony Johnson or Chris Weidman?
And I'd much rather prefer to get punched by Chris Weidman.
And 20 pounds is a lot of weight, but I would have liked to have seen him at middleweight. I think that's more his natural weight class. But
am I going to make $100,000 more by taking an Anthony Johnson punch to the face?
No.
Then no. Absolutely. If I'm getting paid the same, then I'm going with Weidman. But if I'm getting paid like a truckload of money for a higher division, and I think you are. I mean, as you get heavier, you get paid more money. I mean, look at Mark Hunt getting paid, being the highest paid athlete in New Zealand now.
That's not his weight. It's his likability. Just walk off.
He's such a stud.
The Babe Ruth of the fact.
I bet you he sells so many freaking fights because he's just going to stand and bang. Nobody can take him down. I mean, that guy's fun to watch. He's one of the only heavyweights with a modern amount of skill that's actually fun to watch.
The funny thing about the heavyweights is I really like their personalities on pretty much all of them. Like, I love Big Country. I love Stipe. I love Dos Santos. I love Kane. They're lovable guys.
Stipe's got a personality?
I'm trying to hype the next fight, Justin.
Okay, Dana.
I'm doing... Hey, this is for us, too. This is cross-promotion. UFC does good, we do good.
That's true.
You're thinking small picture.
The bigger the UFC is, the bigger we can get.
Go to hell, heavyweights.
So, Glover Teixeira, what's next? You think they give him Johnson? You think Johnson's going to come off the shelf and potentially take a loss?
No, Johnson is not going to take a loss.
No, potentially. So let's think about this in the grand scheme of things, right? You've got Anthony Johnson, who already has a guaranteed title shot against Jones or DC. Obviously, we think it's going to be Jones, but he fights Glover Teixeira. Something weird happens, and he loses.
Anthony Johnson
his title shot's gone.
Is Rashad Evans 4 years ago. That's who Glover would have to go up against, and that's a scary fighter. That I don't think Johnson loses that fight.
I don't think he does either, but on the off chance that he does,
he doesn't.
That really, I said no. That really screws up that division because no one wants to see Glover Teixeira Jon Jones again. I mean, I'd watch it just because if he deserved it, I'm one of those fans. But I'd much rather just see Johnson sit on the shelf until he gets a shot at Jones or DC.
Why not do Gustafsson Teixeira?
I think that's a good fight.
And Gustafsson I think wins, and then you get Gustafsson Jones too in the event that Jones wins
at Madison Square Garden.
Oven St. Preux.
Yeah.
And then Cormier, because luckily on that one we don't have to decide who gets the next title fight like the strawweight division because it's pretty much fleshed out for the next few months. It's going to happen. You've got obviously this fight card coming up, and then it's going to be Daniel Cormier, Jon Jones again. That's what's going to happen. So it's figuring out the rest of the division.
Yep.
Give me Gustafsson, Teixeira. I don't want to see Gustafsson Johnson again. Well, maybe I do. I would watch that fight again. I don't think it gets
after the headbutt.
The headbutt, that's incidental. I don't think. I think that was nuances of him leading with his head, and then the other fight that happened that night too, also leading with his head. I think that's chance. But I'm actually really interested in that fight again.
His forehead's name is Chance?
Huh? What'd you just say to me?
I said his forehead's name is Chance. I
don't know what I said and where the joke's coming in. You guys get it. Keep laughing at it. Tweet at Justin and let him know how funny it is because I missed it.
It was by chance. So his forehead's name is Chance. Because it wasn't by chance. I think there's a lot of headbutts and things that are thrown intentionally.
Why would you headbutt intentionally?
Because it's easy to fake behind an overhand right. You act like you're throwing an overhand right. You lead with your head and an overhand right. Boom.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but you're exposing everything to hopefully get you to,
not if that dude's coming in full speed.
So the guy's coming in full speed, and you are trying to get the crown of your head, which you don't practice hitting with, on his chin.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not how fighters fight. And can you
You
imagine?
don't tell me how fighters fight.
You're just not doing it. Like, I'm not saying it hasn't happened a few times, but it's like you have less control with your head. There's less space. You're exposing yourself. Maybe it happens more than I think, and I'm
Let's
wrong.
hope not. There's children in
Text
that
your
crowd.
cousin. Text him.
I will
Ask him
after
how many
this.
times he threw a head.
Let's hope they don't expose themselves too much. There's children in that crowd. This isn't the WWE. You can't just pay-per-view your way over whatever you want.
Yeah, you can. Do it all the time.
But no, yeah, I feel bad for Rashad Evans. I'd really like to see him not go out off of that devastating of a loss. I mean, I'd like to see him take one more like gimme fight and just retire. I think he does great at announcing. Speaking of announcing, Brian Stan is actually going to be doing color commentary in Brazil in place of Joe Rogan. So our conversation has been for the last long time that we'd like to see Dan Hardy take
No, give me
Joe
Dan
Rogan's
Hardy.
place. I think Brian Stan's going to take his place.
No.
And I don't mind it. I like Brian Stan, but I'd much rather see Dan Hardy in that spot.
I don't want to listen to him and Goldberg. I'm gonna put it on mute if I watch those fights. I don't dislike Brian Stan, but like just him and Goldberg on their own, not interested.
Here's my one issue with Dan Hardy, and it's not an issue. It's actually a respect thing. He gets so enthralled in the fights that he forgets to talk.
I'd prefer that to banter with Goldie.
Usually it's with John Anik. I'd have to see a fight card when Brian Stan was actually talking with Mike Goldberg, because it's usually John Anik, Brian Stan. But the other
I'm
thing
just
is,
kidding. And well, Brian Stan has done good at everything that he's tried to do so far. I'll give him a shot. But I really was actually, I noticed myself trying to listen to Dan Hardy and what he had to say more often than I normally do with the announcers. Like normally I'm just trying to listen to hear the hilarious things that Goldberg and Joe Rogan say, or Joe Rogan calling out Goldberg and stuff. But I was actually really interested in what Dan Hardy had to say about the fights.
it's very different. Respect to Joe Rogan. Apparently he's a great fight announcer. Talking to my cousin again about Joe Rogan, it's that you can tell he's very opinionated on the fighters, and he doesn't try and hide who he is rooting for in any way, shape, or form. And so listening to him while one of your gym mates is also fighting and he's rooting against them is a very difficult thing to listen to when it comes to announcing. Just like when you're listening to, say, like the NBA, and there's an announcer that's obviously like very for, Golden State or Chicago or whoever it is.
I like that. It's more fun for me to cheer against them.
Yeah.
It's like my I have no idea where I was going with that thought. I had it clear cut out.
It's like your
No, I had it clear cut out in my head. Oh, it's like listening to Bill Burr. I hate Boston sports, but like I love listening to him talk about Boston sports and just try to like stir the pot. I love it. It's amazing. But fighting is a little bit different though, because you have ties to those individual people where the person that you cheer for in your particular team's jersey could be traded next year. You know,
it
is different,
and state, not a person.
Especially if you're training with somebody 100% different.
Yeah, no, and it was an interesting thing to get brought up. So what in the world is going on in Albuquerque? I mean, is there just nothing to do? I mean, I already know that. I can answer my own question. There's nothing to do. Diego Brandao now goes to a strip club, gets kicked out, gets really mad, goes home, he gets a gun, and he comes back.
I actually don't know the story. I saw the headline.
And he pistol whips the security guard at the front door of the strip club.
This little $1.45 guy.
Yeah. The same guy that said he was going to slit, was it Dustin Poirier's throat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's a little nutso, but I mean, where are the checks and balances in Albuquerque to make sure those dudes aren't doing those type of things?
I'm sad because I really nobody wants to hang out with him. Are you kidding me? Yeah, some guys like going and pistol whipping people. Like, you're not trying to go hang out. Like, there are, like, regardless of like the Jon Jones, for every Jon Jones, there's a Carlos Condit in the world, or like a Ryan Bader, who probably have their own little issues here and there, but they're just trying to live their life, and they go to train and they go home. You're not trying to tie yourself to Diego Brandao's crazy ass going and like pistol whipping people willy-nilly.
The weirdest part is he went and got his gun and came back. So
and then ended up just pistol whipping the guy.
Yeah, why
don't you just punch him?
In the amount of time, because I think he had 3 people finally kick him out, and so he knew that he couldn't just go back there by himself and fight all 3 or 4 of them. So he took a gun so he could scare them and still make his point. But like,
I really was cheering for him too in that tough finale that he had. Like, I really wanted him to be good. I thought he was going to be the new Jose Aldo. Like, he looked that good against Diego Bermudez.
No,
Dennis Bermudez.
Yeah. You got Jon Jones. In Jon Jones, it's different. Jon Jones has a ton of money and he's a young kid. I mean, he's more like an NBA or an NFL player than anyone else. He's just the face of a very small organization as compared to the NBA or the NFL. Like, in the NBA, in the NFL, you can have teams of 30 plus, NFL, of 24 to 30 plus people. Those people are all going to go party, and a lot of them make people get rid of their cell phones and different things like that. And they know that they have an off season, and then they're going to test on the on season, so they can do as many drugs and as many things as they want during that off season. And then they just have to make sure they test in competition fine.
Unless you're Josh Gordon.
Unless you're Josh Gordon or Manziel.
Did you hear that story?
I heard that Johnny Manziel said he was going to be staying with Josh Gordon, and then they weren't, and then Josh Gordon ended up getting busted for drug use again.
So he pissed below the metabolite level for marijuana, kind of pulling a Nick Diaz, but then his sample was contaminated. It was diluted, is what it said. So he was putting other things in it.
He peed more water in his system than marijuana. There's something not quite right with that. Yeah, 1 ounce of pee to 2 ounces of water. 1 ounce of pee, 2. Yeah, I mean, and I think it'll get to that. I think when the UFC has more, they have 400 people under their belt, and you have like a War Machine that's going to jail. You have what's his face, a super famous one for the bank heist. Like, there's enough crazies. But I think it's such a small pool as compared to some of the other leagues out there that it's a lot harder. I mean, you got Ribéry out in PSG that's sleeping with 17-year-old prostitutes
Bayern
and most
Munich.
of the other team. Oh, yeah, sorry.
And
Bayern Munich. But he was
with the French national team. That whole situation.
That's not what I'm saying.
That whole situation's dumb. Carlos Benzema has a better.
There's bigger amounts of people that are doing
freaking Adam Johnson.
Things. I don't know who that is.
It's your old Man City guy. You kidding me?
Oh, yeah. No.
Pedophile.
I don't even want to hear about that.
He did it when he was in Sunderland. You can. I mean,
R. Kelly's coming in concert, speaking of pedophiles. Anyway, moving on. So is Diego Brandao. Hopefully he does all right. He seems like a really crazy dude, but for some random reason, I've always liked him too. It might be because he brought a Book of Mormon to the tough finale presser.
And he's not Mormon.
I think he just found it in the house.
It's a good book, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know.
People take this seriously? He's probably freaked out when he heard that.
He's like, wait a minute, there's a whole religion based on this?
I just thought it was a book about war. This was awesome.
I just figured it was a Christian church that everyone in Brazil belonged to. That's weird. What do you think about BJ Penn, Dennis Seaver? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll see if it happens. BJ Penn just got indicted, didn't he?
No, he's off. That's all cleared up.
Nah, man.
Did it happen today? Because he was just on Ariel Helwani.
Hold on.
No, I think
you talk about things, and I'm going to find this out.
So we'll talk about this. I'll give you my
opinion. Just saw this. You keep talking.
Okay, so let's go over the indictment.
People are here for you.
From the indictment that I saw, what's it say? Jon Jones behind him.
Now above top.
Cops launch investigation into allegations made against Penn. Finally? But the UFC already did their own accusation, or they already did their own research. So for those that don't know, and I'm guessing most of you do, the allegations were there was a fired employee from BJPenn.com that allegedly said that BJ Penn had made sexual advances towards his girlfriend and even claimed up to potential sexual assault of this guy's girlfriend. It was all over Twitter. That's where he actually broke it. There's other people from BJPenn.com that actually came out and said half and half. Half of them said BJ Penn's kind of a creepo, and half of them said the guy that had said that BJ Penn did all of these things was a creepo and would do anything for money. And a lot of people figured that he was just going to pay him off and it would all go away. This goes under wraps for a little while, it just disappears for a little bit. A little bit later, it comes out that no charges were actually ever charged. So the guy never actually went to the cops and said anything. The UFC ended up doing their own investigation or something like that, and they didn't find any wrongdoing. Partly probably
you know you know what that means, though.
That means there's no charges, just like Anthony Johnson and that. They said, oh, yeah, someone finally just dropped the charges, so we're going to let
And I might
go.
be misunderstanding Sean, but I think that just more means they're doing their own investigation to absolve themselves of responsibility. But that's just that's not to say that he's clean based off of their... I hope he is. And I hate all these stories. Like, they're just not fun. Like, I'd prefer to talk about fights. But, like, anyways, if we want to talk about fights.
Yeah, so anyway, Dennis Seaver, I think it's going to actually happen. So
I don't like Dennis Seaver. I don't know why, but I want him to get his ass beat every time. It was like the only time that I think I was ever cheering for Conor.
I just love how this guy actually says this. Tired of seeing this pervert BJ Penn in the news, Carrasco wrote. Dude's a cocaine addict who sexually assaulted my Playboy model girlfriend. And I have proof. He couldn't just say girlfriend. He had to point out that he was dating a Playboy model.
She's hot as hell, man.
Look her up.
Go recognize real.
You got Google, right? Go Google search my girlfriend.
He probably
right
says
now.
Stuff like that. Real, recognize real, and stuff.
Oh, he's got a truth tattoo.
Yeah, he's got a truth tattoo on his upper back.
Oh yeah.
Probably says it is what it is a lot.
So it looks, for those that don't know,
probably
this
drinks
looks
Jaeger
like
bombs.
It just popped up. It's the same thing that we already knew,
Probably
but
has a Red
they
Yankees
finally are. It's Fred Durst. The guy's actually, his last name's like Carrasco. It's Fred Durst. So anyway, Dennis Seaver, BJ Penn. I think BJ Penn wins. I don't think it proves anything about him as an actual fighter. You give him the top 4, you've got it. Now, here's the issue. Say he does win. The one camp that could really help him get there is definitely Winklejohn. However, they don't seem like they really have any control of their fighters outside of the ring.
No, you're talking about 2 people.
And potentially BJ Penn now.
He was in Hawaii when he did that.
And where was Dog? Where was the bounty hunter during all of
Dog, where you at, man?
Yeah, I thought he was like the Batman of Hawaii, and he just prevented crime. There's no crime that happens on Dog's watch. None. Except for this. But no, that's poor BJ. Like, the thing is I always got the heebie-jeebies from BJ Penn, and I'm not even going to, like, try and oh no, BJ Penn seems like a really good dude. I've been on the BJ Penn's got some weird creepy secret that no one knows about since the beginning. So I really shouldn't have any part of talking about this because I have extreme BJ Penn bias. But I hope he gets off of this. I hope he loses to Dennis Seaver and just retires for good.
No, I hope he beats Dennis Seaver and they both retire for good.
Yeah. Dennis Seaver. Yeah, Dennis Seaver, man. I he's such a weird fighter. Not a weird fighter. I used to like him quite a bit. He pinged for PEDs, then he got crushed by Conor McGregor. He doesn't seem like he really is going to last long in the USADA reign. But
well, they need European fighters.
We're just moving right along in all of this. You got anything more to say about BJ Penn?
No, I feel like they need European fighters.
Yeah, the German. No, and I can agree with that. So, speaking of USADA,
tell me about it.
Kimbo Slice gets 90 days suspension.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be fighting in London in July.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, everyone says, "Oh, Bellator, they'll do whatever it takes to make a buck." Is there anything wrong with that in the entertainment business, other than Dada almost dying? No, absolutely not.
Well, I mean, Dada was going to do it on the street anyways.
Yeah, and he did.
I mean, and I understand that, from a
super solid point.
I mean, he's going to make more money doing it there than just doing it on the street. So, and it's in a sanctioned place. So I understand.
So it's like pornography.
Yeah. Sounds like a fine comparison to me. I enjoy both.
You get tested.
I enjoy. I didn't. That's not true. I've never enjoyed the Dada fight.
Yeah, that's a solid point. That was never enjoyable, and it lasted 12 minutes longer,
which is 11 minutes longer than me.
Yeah.
Anyways, but no, I don't look to me to commentate on Bellator going forward. By the way. Unless it's a pretty good fight. I'm not going to
Ben Henderson this weekend.
I'll do that. Yeah. I'm not going to do...
And Andrei Koschev, who beat Jordan by decision.
I was about the UFC 149 until it actually happened.
Which one
Those
was-
fights, I don't have a problem with them
Bellator
doing it.
149.
What did I say?
The UFC. I was like,
excuse
wow,
me.
you got a good memory. I really was all about it until it happened.
UFC 149. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's bullshit. No, Bellator 149. I was into it. It was fun. It was when we were first starting. We were getting like the way to watch it. Like I said on the cast right after that is on the Twitter sphere.
Yep.
And just shooting the shit with everybody that enjoys the same things you enjoy. But I mean, apart from jumping on to have some banter with y'all, probably not going to be paying attention to too many more. I'm thinking
Bellator.
Ferguson right now. Like
Bellator fights.
thinking his original name. What's his name?
Tony?
Kimbo Slice.
Kimbo Slice. Yeah.
I'm not too interested in any of those fights anymore.
I'm interested in this weekend's fight. They've got one of the Fieri brothers, as well as
Ferreira?
Ben Henderson versus Andrei Koschev, who beat my cousin Jordan by decision, and he was supposed to just run through him.
Was that the one they did in Russia?
That was the one they did here in Utah.
I was going to say, was that the Putin one? That we heard
No, I
about?
wish.
On the Jordan interview one?
Nope. That one was here in Utah. And
So I saw that one, I think. Right?
Yep, you were there. He was supposed to dominate Jordan. He held him down the entire time. That's kind of, I don't know how many people he's beat by strikes. It seems like most of the people he just kind of takes down. He beat Dave Rickles for the belt. The only reason I know anything about him, Ben Henderson had no idea who he was.
What's Rickles' fighting style?
Go out and brawl.
Dang it. I want him to be the tickle and have him just be kind
Dave
of like
the
a
Tickle
wrestler.
Rickle.
Yeah. I just want him to go out there and wrestle people.
All right. I'm going to come tickle you.
Good.
Hard tickles. They're going to hurt your ribs.
No, yeah, I am excited for that fight. There's actually a lot of good fights just in general this weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. No, 197. That's what I figured in the next 10 minutes we'd get into what we're really excited for from 197. Chances that OSP actually upsets Jon Jones?
0.
I'd like OSP too. I would like to see him upset him. Chances that Cejudo upsets DJ?
10%.
10%. Pettis Barbosa.
Pettis.
Oh, you think?
Yes.
That's
I
good.
love Pettis. I love Barbosa. Barbosa has the best knockout in UFC history. I don't like it. Didn't maybe mean as much as all the other ones that people love,
Poor Terry Edom.
but that is he got. When they say starch started with Terry Edom. That was holy hell. That was awesome. That was the best. Like as far as just pure aesthetic technique goes, there wasn't as much writing on it, obviously, but that is the best knockout in UFC history.
Sylvain Lee, I'm excited to see. He's an up-and-coming prospect. Looks like he's the first early
Hold on.
prelim. Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, I'm just looking at all this.
I want to hear your on these before we breeze
All right.
past them. Jon Jones. I'm more interested I'm more interested in how you think the fight's going to play out.
Yeah.
With Jon Jones coming back. Like how do you think that happens?
First, let's get into how Feely's going to be on here, whose nickname is Touchy Feely, which is one of the best.
Can we get him against Tickle Rickle?
Tickle. There you go. I don't know if they're the same weight class, but who cares?
Yeah, weight classes are done.
You'll do it. Let's hope he loses to Rodriguez, and then we'll have Touchy Feely against Tickle Rickle. Pettis Barbosa. I think Barbosa takes this one, and I think he takes it by third round decision. I don't think he knocks out Pettis. I think that they just kind of stand and exchange for 3 rounds. The reason I think this is because Pettis hasn't looked
Awful
like
brave of you believing in a Brazilian post USADA.
Oh, that's also a solid point too. They haven't done very well post USADA, but the reason I believe that is I don't think Anthony Pettis has looked psychologically prepared to fight in quite a while.
He's only fought Alvarez though since
He fought Alvarez and he fought Gilbert Melendez and he didn't look solid. He looked solid against Henderson and that was like the last time. And he looked lethargic against Henderson, but he caught him in an awesome armbar. He just hasn't looked like he had that killer instinct for a long period of time, which is too bad because he's one of my favorite fighters by far. Barbosa's got a killer instinct, but he will walk himself into strikes. Unless Pettis kicks him right in the liver like he did Joe Lozon, I don't see him finishing Barbosa. And he might. I'd rather see Pettis win this fight, but I think Barbosa takes it. Now, you make a very good point being post-USADA, so that could affect it a lot. Johnson Cejudo, I think Johnson stays away from the takedown with his speed and wins by 25-round decision.
Yeah, I think I think it's a lot of scrambles, getting back up and throwing significant strikes just in transition.
You think it could end up like Holly Holm, Misha Tate, where he only needs 2 rounds?
No, I think he dominates pretty much every round.
No, I mean Cejudo only needs 2 rounds
To win?
to win.
Oh, he only needs 1 round to win.
Yeah.
I mean, if he gets him down and holds him down, MMA is different. I think it sets it up. I think Cejudo's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
So I think it sets it up for a nice storyline down the line. We might start getting 2 or 3 with him.
You think Cejudo would get the belt if DJ moved up to 135?
Be between him and Dodson. I think Dodson drops back down.
Oh, no, that would make a ton of sense, actually.
I think Dodson actually holds the belt. Because Dodson's like a more... I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Dodson has everything to win the belt. It's super confusing to me, but...
it's just speed. DJ's the only one that's
Dodson's so fast.
But he's just a step ahead.
I don't know. I see this... I do think Cejudo... I mean, in the eventuality that Dodson, without having IV, stays up a weight class, Cejudo being a wrestler and always being accustomed to cutting weight, I think he has what it takes to win that belt. And I think that's what the UFC wants. They want a Mexican champion. They want to keep it in that market. Cain Velasquez is the guy. They can't get him to sell a card in Mexico City, unfortunately. But I think they really do want him to start doing good, and they want to start building a fan base around him. And you'll start seeing a Mexico City Cejudo,
we follow him
Velasquez co-headline card.
We follow him on Instagram, and he's down in Mexico City all the time. Cejudo is. I mean,
I mean this with a grain of salt, like is real Mexican. 'Cause I mean, in the sense that yes, Cain. If Cain Velasquez hears this, you are my favorite fighter. Don't beat me up for saying that, but like Cejudo, Spanish is. You can tell, like, he's more integrated.
Kenny Florian speaks better Spanish than Cain Velasquez does. I mean, his mom's Peruvian, but I mean, Verdum in The Ultimate Fighter was speaking better Spanish.
It's more, I just think, what I mean to say by all of that is I feel like Cejudo is more integrated into the Hispanic culture. And I think he is
Cejudo, and Velasquez is Velasquez. So, I mean...
Well, he doesn't have brown pride tatted across him, and he did represent America in the Olympics. So
wait a minute,
maybe Cain is more Mexican.
OSP Jones, your same reasoning why Pettis will probably crush Barbosa is the same reason I give OSP a chance. OSP lost to Ryan Bader because Ryan Bader wrestled him instead of striking with him, and he's got one other loss, and I think it was by decision. He's never been finished. He's a very athletic dude. The height difference isn't that big of a deal. It's a 4-inch reach advantage, which is big. I mean, Jon Jones obviously had the longest.
The same height?
76 inches to 75 inches. Jones is an inch higher.
The hell?
Jones apparently, once again, like many, has lost his legs recently, probably in a car wreck. But, I mean, the thing is that the reach advantage has proved to be difficult for most people in the UFC. My breakdown would be that OSP looks good in the first round because Jon Jones has been gone for a while. People are like, oh, like a Lyoto Machida. Like, oh, he's actually landed a couple punches. Jon Jones gets his feelers back, gets his range, and then just ends it dominantly. Second.
TKO? You're saying TKO?
I think he TKOs him in the beginning of the third round.
And I'm thinking submission. I'm thinking all the weight training.
Well, okay. It's going to end on the ground whether he either gets him in a submission where he knocks him down and submits him, or he knocks him down and then just finishes him.
And I see it more like kind of like a Lyoto Machida kind of scenario where he
standing guillotines
he can close the distance quick. And I think all this weight training, he's looking more explosive, so I could definitely see him finally like getting maybe like that knockout punch, which I don't think he should really go for. TKOs are just as awesome as knockouts in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to transition a lot more. Just that like crazy strength is going to be more for ground game submission skills and just overall jiu-jitsu and grappling.
You think he Conor McGregor's it? He comes in too heavy, has to cut too much weight, gasses faster than he thinks he's going to?
No, I think he'll gas because he's been out of the game for so long and he'll probably forget how to use his energy a little bit. But I don't think he's going to come in too heavy. He's looked smaller since, like if you looked recently, he wasn't like gaining as much muscle weight as he did initially.
Now that he's cycling off his period.
No, I don't think he's been getting. you have to believe that USADA's testing Anthony Johnson 6 times, Anderson Silva 6 times, somebody who's been busted for substance abuse before, out of competition. But you've got to believe that they've been testing him. So I don't think, hopefully, there hasn't been this cycle on, cycle off stuff. And a lot of the stuff's been kind of sketchy too with that, like the Frank Mir thing. So did you know that the week before he actually tested clean?
Interesting.
And
I
then
did not
the
know
week
that.
and this is what I heard on You're Welcome, the week after right going up to his fight, he tested hot for a steroid that takes 6 months to get out of your system. Why would a veteran of that long of the sport?
And that was Chael Sonnen. I remember I missed the first part that you said, but I did hear the second part of Chael Sonnen.
And that's
they don't use steroids. Like, they use diuretics, they use bulkers, they don't use steroids.
Even in that steroid in particular,
they don't use the Ken Shamrock.
They don't. I love that you're bringing that back. I forgot about it.
That's called a callback, Paul. Paul's our comedian friend.
My other podcast,
Poor Sport Report.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's using. I think he probably got into some scraps in training and stuff like that, and maybe realized that because has he looked as big to you? He doesn't look as cut up as he initially did when he was coming back.
No. So I thought we were talking Frank Mir.
He still looks better.
Jones looks like he's starting to cut. He's actually starting to cut weight.
And he looks like he still looks better than he did, but he's never looked bad.
Did you see the interview today on ESPN? You got to watch it. The intro that they do with him is like, Jon Jones, who's had several run-ins with the law, who was caught on federal charges, and he goes, wow, that's quite the lead-in, or whatever
They said that leading up to his interview?
Yeah, with him. She was there. They were sitting across from each other, and he was like, wow, that's quite the lead-in. She's like, well, I got to report the news, or whatever.
Is it the same chick that was with Weidman and... the same reporter
no,
with Weidman and Rockhold?
It's the older ESPN, like, redhead reporter.
Okay.
Because the one was the one with them was the young African-American, right? Yeah. Nope, yeah, they different reporter. It's the...
I mean, ESPN's been going in on MMA lately, and especially they're apparently the ones that are going to try to pick it up after Fox still, but...
They need to.
They're giving it some shit.
Yeah, well, they're definitely doing it. Fight that I'm really interested in, Whitaker and Natal. Both of these dudes are strikers. Robert Whitaker, I really, really like. He's looked pretty good since the end of The Ultimate Fighter. He was on a pretty good run. I believe he lost either his last fight or his second to last fight.
Hey, there you go. Esparza's fighting on this card, too. Yeah. So if she gets that W, put her up against Rose.
Yeah, I guess it is this card, so it is this week, which would only put them a week difference. Whitaker beat Uriah Hall, beat Brad Tavares, beat Clinton Hester. I mean, he looks good. Robert Whitaker is probably one of the best UFC fighters that is still flying under the radar, and he's flown under the radar since he won the Ultimate Fighter. Same Ultimate Fighter as Norm Park, who just got booted from the UFC.
And you just saw live him go on my radar, because I don't know any of that.
I've watched him since Canada versus Australia or New Zealand versus Australia or whatever it was. He's actually a solid fighter. But no, that's the episode for this week. OSP Jones, you think he finishes by submission?
Submission. And we'll see with Barbosa. I honestly don't think that Brazilians are all using, but I mean, it has been pretty crazy, the drop off in competition.
RDA seems to be getting better.
Since USADA? You haven't seen him fight since USADA.
No, his last fight against Pettis was under USADA technically, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
No.
But anyways, and I don't think Pettis, if there is like a stigma for people using, just to clear this up before we go, if there is a stigma for Brazilians using and stuff like that, I don't necessarily think that Edson Barbosa falls into that train of thought or that camp. I could be wrong. We'll see. I think that even on their merits alone, Pettis has enough tools to beat him. Like if you look, Ferguson beat Barbosa up and then ended up getting him in a Darce choke. I think that Pettis is a high enough caliber striker. He can hang with Barbosa. They're two very, very high level strikers. They can both switch stances and give them different looks. I think it's going to be an exciting fight to watch. Jones wins. I hope Pettis wins, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for this card. I'm excited for next week to talk about it too.
It will show how far Anthony Pettis has fallen if he loses to Barbosa. Barbosa's coming off of back and forth wins and losses. Lost to Michael Johnson, lost to Tony Ferguson. Beat Bobby Green, beat Paul Fielder, which really neither of those really matter. Against top competition, he hasn't done very well. Remember, the guys, we're live here, so they might be going to try and edit it. Remember to follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and of course, if you feel so inclined, share with all of your friends.
And love us in your heart.
And love us in your heart. And we appreciate everything that you do for us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.